I know where she works.
Yeah, right. So, okay, I think we should be live in a moment.
The meeting's supposed to start.
Carlo is here.
15 minutes, right?
Yep,
All right.
Carl was coming as well.
Good. Carl.
Hello, hello. You're on mute, Carl. We still can't hear you.
So wonderful to see you. Hello, Matt. First time.
Paul, we've
Great.
never met, but I hear your name often.
Me too. Oh, so Princeton University. Wow. Yeah, I feel, even if I hear the word, I even feel like being in royalty.
That was the worst mistake they ever made in its history to hire me.
Ah,
Oh.
Okay, well, let's hope that no more people are going to come and disturb our meeting, because Carl didn't see it, but we had to kick out a couple of people just literally trying to crash the meeting, and I will not share these Zoom links again, because clearly, yeah, people have nothing
Valmir.
to do.
Valmir that works with me. He's my COO.
Hi, Valmir.
Hi.
Hello, hello everyone.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're just going to wait maybe one more minute and then get started. We should have a few more people joining in, I believe. Maybe we just give them like, yeah, a few more minutes and then.
Yeah. I mean, if you have the same weather that we have, then I understand that people are somewhere else. Very sunny outside here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 25 degrees, wonderful, just the right atmosphere. I'm just coming from the park.
Oh,
For
wow.
you.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Where,
Oh,
where are you located?
Berlin, Germany.
Berlin.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, you are in
see-
Rio de Janeiro and Arlene
Rio
is
de
in
Janeiro.
Sao Paulo.
Yes,
Not
he used
I
to
would
be
love to
the
travel
opposite.
to
my
Rio
God.
de Janeiro sometime.
Ah,
I've heard it's beautiful.
but
Yeah,
the background is
today-
not Berlin. This background is not Berlin.
Yeah, no, well,
I thought
I
so.
would say that if I put my real background, it's gonna sound better than yours.
Ah,
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at through the window. I can see the mountains. I can see the ocean, and
Oh.
I would say that a little cloudy today, but it's still a good day.
Seeing the ocean, great. Hello.
Yeah.
Ah,
All right. So we just wait maybe like one more minute and then get started, if that's okay with everybody. And yeah, if you would like to share where you are logging in from, you're most welcome to. All right, all right. Oh, and just before I don't forget, I'm going to start recording the meeting just to make sure that we have a recording of it all. Okay, well, thank you so much for everybody being here today. We started with the meeting having a couple of people coming in and disturbing the meeting. So let's really hope that we have no more people coming in and doing that for us. And yeah, this is our very first masterclass. that we called Empower Mind Body Blueprint and how to build resilience to reduce anxiety. And this is what I'm planning to make it as a monthly educational sessions where we're going to always connect mental health and physical fitness. So please welcome my two amazing renowned experts in mental and physical health, Matt Borowski and Arlene Davis. I'm going to read their profiles to you so you can actually understand a little bit about their background. So Matt has over 40 years of experience in collegiate level of administration, instructor and coach, and he's an expert in the field of physical well-being. He started his career as a health and fitness supervisor at Princeton University back in 1983, and he has held various influential roles, including assistant strength and conditioning coach at Rutgers University. And his current position right now is the assistant director of campus recreation and fitness at Princeton University. Matt's exceptional background goes beyond his professional experience. He proudly served the US Marine Corps from 1975 to 1979. Furthermore, his dedication to sharing his knowledge and empowering others is reflected in his extensive literature contribution, because Matt has actually authored 8 books and co-authored 7 of them and edited 2. And this makes him a very accomplished author and a thoughtful leader. Matt has also delivered engaging presentations at over 100 conferences, clinics, and camps throughout the United States and Canada. And notably, he has had the honor of presenting to esteemed organizations and groups such as the U.S. Secret Service Academy, Central Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, as well as the Pentagon. So Matt has been a lecturer for the Department of Kinesiology and Health at Rutgers University, teaching principles of strength and conditioning. And in 22 years of teaching at this university, he had over 1,875 undergraduate students have taken his course. So welcome, Matt, and thank you so much again for being here with us. And Arlene, thank you so much for you joining us as well today. Arlene Davis is a master trainer in coaching, neuro-linguistic programming, and mindfulness. She's actually the president of the International Association of NLP Institutes, IN, the International Association of Coaching, ICI, and Mindfulness Evolving in Me in the USA and in Brazil. With 30 years of experience in the human development field, she has honed her skills as a mindset maven, and she's passionate about taking professional and personal life to a new level of evolution. Arlene has worked with billion-dollar revenue companies in Brazil with educational programs for soft skill development. Her academic background in evolutionary ecology and zoology at UC Davis, she still echoes in her work. Currently, we are welcoming her from Sao Paulo in Brazil, and she's actually lectures there and holds workshops, not just only in Brazil, but internationally. And she's been acknowledged for her engaging presentation and genuine caring for participants. So thank you so much for Arlene as well for being here with us. I really do appreciate it. So Matt and Arlene bringing a wealth of experience, knowledge, and invaluable assets to our masterclass today. And their expertise and insight will enrich our discussion, empowering us to build resilience, to reduce anxiety, and unlock our potential when it comes to mind and body. So, yeah, I'm really, really grateful that you are all here with us today. And First of all, I would like to ask and discuss with you when it comes to this masterclass that when it comes to mental health and physical health, what I've personally seen over the years is that the two sectors kind of like seem separate. So I kind of feel like when it comes to gyms and recreation centers, they mostly focus on the physical health. And then we have a separate industry in mental health. But somehow in my mind, the two for true well-being should be connected. So my first question would be the two of you that when it comes to this gap, do you see this gap? And if you see this gap, like, you know, what is your input and experience with it? So,
Sure. Well, I'll reflect back to you something that was so insightful that you really said to me about mindset, about taking care of oneself. And if you do like a benchmarking of what people are willing to do for their physical activities, they'll go to a gym and they'll pay for a subscription, but maybe they won't put as much effort into or investment into the mental health, and the mental health supports goals. I'm not on the physical fitness side of things, but I know that the personal trainers and coaches, they count on their clients for their engagement, for their accountability. And these are all aspects that have to do with mental health, the capacity to be able to commit to a course of action that takes care of health. So it makes so much sense to me. And I commend you for wanting to open up this space.
Ildi, I think you make a really good point about the fact that traditionally, physical health has been separate from mental health. There is a gap there. There probably shouldn't be a gap there, as you suggest. And I think part of that too is that if you really think about it, your physical health is really tied to your mental health, and your mental health is really tied to your physical health. For example, if you there's a strong evidence in the research showing that engaging in various forms of physical activities is going to improve various aspects of your mental health. So there's a link there. I think also if you look at your mental health, if you feel better about yourself, for example, I think that's going to lend itself to you wanting to take better care of yourself and be more concerned about not only your short-term health, but your long-term health, and therefore more likely to engage in physical activity. So I think, even though, as you said, both of them are viewed separately, they're really linked together, and it goes in both directions, both your physical health helping your mental health, and your mental health helping your physical health.
I think that we know from experience, everybody here, how physical activity can change your mood. That in and of itself is just a giant gain to be able to change your mood in a very concrete way and get a direct hit of dopamine because you did something. The physical exercise in and of itself is going to raise endorphin levels. It's going to engage the neurotransmitters in a very healthful way. And then somebody can, pat themselves on the back, and I really did it today. And having that record with oneself to know that one has done something in a very concrete way that adds up in their mind, that they're taking care of themselves, just like Matt was talking about. And there's all kinds of science that backs that up, how it makes a difference for the mental health. It makes it easier, and mental health helps people to engage and commit to physical exercise. So it's very, very much connected. Very good topic to talk about.
thank you. I really appreciate your input because that's what I'm seeing for quite a while now. And I kind of feel like that, when it came to COVID, that's what really made all of us to reflect on what's going on. And that what's going on is that gap. It's what's going on. And I feel like it's our responsibility, both working in fitness and both working in mental health, to actually come together and finally combine the two industries into one and truly call it well-being, instead of we say now we have physical health and mental health, but we can't be truly well in our mind if our body is not healthy, and our body cannot be truly healthy if the mind is not well. So like Matt said as well as I earlier, that we just have to combine these two together.
Yeah, they call the phrase that's being used more frequently as time goes on is the mind-body connection. So that speaks to what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the mind-body connection, and that's why it's like we're using this phrase for so long, but somehow we never truly connected the two areas.
Yeah, over time, over the decades, I've been studying biology for decades. It's my experience and my age. It's racked up. But I've also had the experience of what it used to be, what we used to believe about mental health and physical health. And it's so good that it has changed in the emphasis in the pandemic. I agree. We spoke of that. It was very positive for many people. Many people had never finally carved out some time to take care of themselves. And the way the pandemic came is, what else am I going to do? And there were some very good guidelines that came out that I was following. I was on the internet just like everybody else, I think. It was just like, what to do, what do we do now? And one of the big guidelines was to get a routine, because the routines were shattered in many different ways. So get a routine. So what's available? Waking up, having rhythm in the day, doing some exercise, taking advantage of all the wonderful lives that were being shared, doing yoga, meditating, finding a way to do something, getting, having a community, getting on those lives where people are on Zoom and going to the breakout rooms and just talking and sharing what it was. So it was positive for many, many people that I know. And for me myself, it was like, I'm going to really practice these routines now. So it's time. It was positive for me. It makes a very big difference. And one thing about routine, one thing to mention that a professor of mine told me about, if you do the same routine every day, some people get bored by this. In NLP, we talk about meta programs, and some people have preferences about procedure, other people like more options, but this professor made a really good case for me as an options person. It's about repeating the same thing. If you repeat the same thing every day, the routine, you can make a comparison. And so like now, if I do my yoga every day, one day I go, man, I don't feel like finishing this. Or one day I might feel on fire. Maybe other people have that kind of experience. It doesn't have to be the same every day. That's a mindfulness attitude too. It's just like, here it is in this kind of way in this day. And it gives us a chance to be in touch with ourselves, mind, body, what's going on with my thoughts, what's going on with my body, am I having a chaotic mind today? Is my body sluggish? These are all information that we can use to adjust our day. Am I taking care of myself? What's going on with my eating? What's going on with my sleeping? And to doing something about it. And there's the empowerment as the idea of taking control of one's life and navigating one's life by gaining resources. So these are some of the topics that we came to talk about today. And I definitely wish this for people, that they can do this for their own lives.
Staying on the topic of COVID, Marlene mentioned the fact that the pandemic, the global pandemic, forced or encouraged a lot of people to become more active and become more mindful of their mental and physical health. But one of the other things that it did from a practical standpoint was that, because depending on where you lived, I mean, gymnasiums closed, fitness centers closed. And what that, for varying lengths of time, and what that did, it forced people to think of alternative ways than your traditional gym. So what did they do? Then they started to put together their own workouts based upon, the workouts became more simple. Physical activity became more simple. So instead of going to a gym with, in some cases, some high-tech equipment, now you were forced to relatively elementary equipment like resistance bands, for example, or they looked into some other means such as yoga and meditation and breathing and so forth.
That is very, very true and a very good point. And one of my questions is actually, when it comes to the routines, when we talk about, anxiety and an anxious person, do you guys believe that routine would be beneficial for an anxious person or a stressed person? And if it would be beneficial, share your own, either work with your students or clients, or your own experience, even that, when it comes to developing your routine, how these people could develop a routine that could help them to build resilience.
I mean, I
Sure.
can- I'm sorry, go ahead, Ollie.
No, the routine is important and going to be tracked. So something that I did for myself and with other people that I work with is starting to work with habit trackers. Like it was a positive period for acquiring habits, I think, in many ways. So routine means that one has to get up enough energy to do it. And that energy, there's a little trick by Mel Robbins. She calls it the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. Is that often we do know this one? We often know that we have something to do. We made a commitment to do it. And then she talks about the thinking bias of the mind. And so, oh, it's time to get up and meditate, or, change my position in the bed to sit for meditation, or to get up and put on my yoga pants or something like that, or get the weights or something like that. Do this. And the person thinks about it. And then there's a moment. She talks about doing this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 trick, which I may exaggerate a little bit from hers. When it's like 5, 4, the person knows when I get to 1, I'm going to get up and do it. 3, 2, 1. Don't think about it. Just get up and do it. And then habit is actually when the body's ready to do it. And we have all these little tricks about setting up live for when you're walking across the kitchen toward the kitchen to get water or coffee in the morning. You can see your gym clothes or something like that. Or I have my little yoga blocks. I have a little box with my yoga equipment that I use that I keep out, so that it's like in the way, it's in the visual way. And I think it helps. I understand that people in very acute states of anxiety, they may get in their own way to an extreme extent, where the coaching that we do may make a very important, a big difference, so they can start getting organized to get over that initial inertia. So the anxiety can be hyper thought provoking, which can cause the analysis paralysis, and people get in their own way. Sometimes we need to really help people to do baby tiny steps of mindfulness, to support them, help them to be patient while they're oscillating, when they're not so consistent, to be kind to themselves, and just to keep on going and building this brick by brick.
So if we talk about routine, I think it's important for, in the initial stages, someone starting an exercise program to get into a routine. And by that, I mean, in order to adhere or to continue with the program, to make sure it's sustainable, for example, that the individual, I think it's important for them to try to set aside the same time every day or on a regular basis. So that if their schedule is all over the place, it's going to be it's going to be much more difficult to stay with a program like that. So it's, it's a matter of getting into a routine. Once you're into a routine, for example, then, now I'm a creature of habit. I like to do the same stuff. And I know I shouldn't necessarily, but I like to do the same stuff over in terms of my working out, my personal workouts. I just, that in my case, that makes me less stressed out because I know what to expect. With many other individuals, however, it's important to vary those workouts, to do different things. Okay, whether it's that same workout or just 2 different types of workouts.
That's actually, a really good point. Keeping the workouts at the same time, and as Arlene said as well, is to make them step by step, so little things. Because what I noticed with my clients in the past as well, like, people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm going to, work out 5 times a week or 7 times a week, from next week for an hour. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like, instead of committing to something that is, an hour long, 5 times a week, let's just reduce it. Yeah, absolutely. It's not realistic. So it's like it's reducing it to the baby steps and committing to, as Matt said as well, like, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, for example, 3 times a week. And start with 15 minutes. because 15 minutes is something that we can achieve as we can feel like is achievable, right? But while an
And like
hour,
Arlene said, it's got to be, she mentioned the word habit. It's got to be routine early on until it becomes a habit, because what we're really talking about here in general is behavior modification, especially with someone who hasn't exercised before.
There's a tricky little thing that is good for everybody to know about. A trick of the mind is that people can make reactive goals. It sounds like a positive goal. It's an affirmative language. I will go to the gym 1 hour a day, or I will walk, I'll do meditation, all these other things. And if we calibrate to their nonverbal language and their inner state, we discover that the goal is actually to escape from how bad they were for not doing anything, or how bad the situation is. And so these ambitious, super ambitious goals are like about correcting myself because I was so bad and I need this change. In Brazil, we would say from yesterday. This is a hard pressure to put on one's mind, that I need to be different from yesterday. And so it's kind of like it ends up being kind of a punishment. And then that's painful. And if it's painful to somebody to subject to this, and then they make negative comparisons, and then they might, I'm talking about the worst case scenario here, then they might set themselves up for failure or not carrying it out. And they have another reason that might be part of they really take it to the worst case scenario, could be part of the drama addiction. To set things up so that once again they failed, they've disappointed themselves, and then it can really spin out. So I mean, for myself too, consistency is better. There's a nice little phrase in English that nothing succeeds like success. Is that it? No, now my Portuguese is interfering here, but the small succession of consistent activities will have a lot more weight and value for somebody actually changing their lives, because it starts from that place. And I think about mindfulness here, the mindfulness attitude is that I accept where I am at the starting place. And instead of getting into the whole merit of it's bad for me to have gotten here, how did I do that to myself when I'm so far off and I'll never get there? And will somebody my age ever be able to do this? And all these other things. Why can everybody else do it, but I can't do it? All this mental chatter can just compound on the painfulness of it, and it just doesn't really work as well as like be happy for a baby step.
yeah, I so agree with you. And what I also want to ask from both of you actually is, when it comes to anxiety, I know, like, even though I teach about mindfulness and anxiety reduction and how to manage stress, I know I can get stressed as well. So a lot of people think that there are no, like a lot of people not anxious in this world, but I believe it's like we all experiencing anxiety time to time. And when it comes to anxiety and stress in your personal lives, would you mind sharing it with other people? Like, how do you experience it? And when you are experiencing it, what do you do to change it so it doesn't overwhelm you? You just acknowledging it.
Yeah, Ilvi, I think what you pointed out about anxiety and stress, I think everybody feels anxiety and stress at one time or another. It's normal. It's when it becomes excessive that it becomes an anxiety disorder. So I think one thing that people have to understand, again, is that anxiety is normal. Like, for example, you mentioned that for us to talk anecdotally about personal experiences, but like with me, for example, I almost always get nervous before I give a presentation. Even if I've given more than 100 presentations over the course of my career, at including the CIA, the Pentagon, and so on, and I still get, and even if it's a smaller presentation, I still get a little bit nervous. Once I start rolling, I'm okay. I got nervous before this, for example. Even though I prepped for it, I still got nervous. But I think again, just to emphasize the fact that stress is normal, anxiety is normal. It's just how you, the degree to which you're capable of handling.
Sure, it's knowledge helps. to understand that about anxiety, for example. I think that's so important to maybe it's a reframe for some people that stress is normal because we're in life, because there are adversities, and also that anxiety is a response of the body mobilizing energy to take care of something. What happens is the human mind can psychologically react to things that are not really threats. So me personally, I tell myself many times to just like connect down and to really at this moment check, literally look and hear and everything. Okay, this moment is safe. This moment is safe. This moment is safe. This moment is safe. Yeah, I've got big hunking problems to take care of. This moment is safe. I give myself that moment. This moment is safe. And if we get into the idea that in personal anecdotes, if I get into the idea that I shouldn't have anxiety problems, my anxiety should not be overwhelming and things like that, just makes it worse. And so I like the mindfulness attitude so much about accepting beginner's mind. It's okay. I'm a beginner at every single moment that I go on. I'm human and everything else. So to calm myself down. If I have if I start into analysis paralysis, because my thinking quick mind can do that pretty productively, then that's where my go-to is physical exercise. For example, I like to do dancing, Latin rhythms and ballroom dancing. And if you cannot connect with your partner in the present, I'll screw up a step. You know, I might poke my partner with my elbow or something like that. And there's music there. It's pleasurable anyway. So I make sure I go out dancing twice a week to make sure I have these pleasurable moments that I'll go through many different rhythms and different emotional expressions. It's kind of like, you know, washing things out for me to do that. So I make sure I go out and do that. I go out now. It's possible to go out now. It's a little bit of socialization. So I calm myself down. Basically, I talk to myself, accept it.
That's really cool. I really love it because I think that a lot of times other people also think that when it comes to exercise, it means you have to go to the gym, you have to run, you have to do something that's going to hurt you. But if you love dancing and you just go and dance and do something that is enjoyable, you're still moving your body, you're still going to exercise, right? But you're doing it in a way that's actually your mind and body doing it with pleasure instead of like forcing yourself to do something just because of the sake of it. So it's once again, it's not about forcing, right? It's doing something that you feel happy and safe with. And I actually love when you just said to like, you know, I'm safe in this moment, because I just wanted to say again, like, of course, like for me as well, before I was coming here, for a moment, I was like, okay, I'm a little bit nervous because I don't know what to expect. Like I'm having to live stream, you know, for a while onto these social media pages. So I'm like, okay, you know, will everything go smoothly? And, you know, who's going to turn up and how the conversation all gonna go? And even as you just, you know, started saying like, you know, be safe in this moment. I don't know if you guys felt it as well, but I really felt like, yes, we are safe in this moment. Everything will be fine. Like, you know, let's be mindful about it. This is our first time doing this. Like, and even if we repeat this in a month's time, we actually, Dr. Carl Nelson and Matt is also coming. So they're going to be our participants in our next session. And, you know, we're going to do that session as well at the first time. So it's always, whatever we are doing, it's always the first time at that time. So, and that's how I think if we keep it in mind, it's like we can remind ourselves to be safe in that moment because we've never done it. It's just, let's have fun with these things, right?
I think, Ildi, just to revisit one of the points that you had made a little bit about people not having to go to the gym to experience various positive changes in their lives. But some people, they need to go to the gym. They that's what turns them on, you know, for example, that's what gets them where they're going, but that's not for everybody. And if we look at there's some people who don't, for whatever reason, they don't want to go to the gym. Well, they don't have to go to the gym. There's other forms of activity that they can do. And if we look at even some of the research studies, that show the positive effect that physical activity has on various markers, and right now we're talking about anxiety, but in some cases, the studies are specific. They may look at strength training, or they may look at aerobic training, but other studies, it's just physical activity in general produces those effects. And in some cases too, and think about this, because this is really powerful. The one study, it was actually a meta-analysis of a number of studies. And what they concluded is that exercise is important as a treatment option for things like anxiety. And what are the traditional treatment options? What are the traditional treatment options? Well, they're therapy and they're medicine. So in other words, again, I think a very powerful statement. The research is showing that exercise or physical activity is just as good, or can be just as good or effective as taking therapy or taking medication.
I have a crazy experience from many years ago. Maybe it helped mold my career. I don't know. I was just leaving the university, still there, and one of the biology professors wanted to do a research study on stress reduction. And he was a specialist in biofeedback. So he had all his equipment in the labs at UC Davis. And his research assistant was a meditation teacher, and they needed a control group to compare biofeedback with meditation and some control activity. So I was a friend of the research assistant. Let's bring in Arlene. Let's have her teach some movement classes at the end of the day for university administrative people. And so at the end of the study, my group was the control doing activity, but they said that movement was what most helped them to reduce their stress. It was kind of like an accident to the study, but it was like, we were just moving happily. The end of the day was their space for them to cut loose a little bit and to smile. And it's not about having the kind of dancing that I would do, is not instruction about how to move. It's just, there's no mistakes here. There's big successes in moving and participating. So that was like a really early on personal thing that happened to me. Nobody expected it, but that's what it was for that study group.
Yeah, these studies are always so interesting to see that how they can actually help people. And once again, yeah, exercise, like how beneficial it when it comes to treating anxiety and stress. And it's not that hard, because even like, you can still go out and have a walk in nature, or just have a walk. And that's already going to change how your anxiety is playing up on you in that moment. And especially like as you are walking, I often say clients to look up towards the sky, because when we are walking, we tend to often look down, and it's more about, again, opening up and just simply doing that. That's also, yeah, going to change our brain chemistry by changing our posture. So once again, changing the physical body, right?
Yeah, Matt was talking about stress and as normal, everybody has it. It's a reaction to life. And I was listening to the podcast. I don't remember the author. He was speaking of stress as something that is part of our lives. And he was talking about good stress too, positive stress. I think I'm always going to talk about positive stress like people have been talking about for 30 years or something like that. But he caught my interest instead of that, because he said physical activity is one example of positive stress. So it's sometimes physical activity. I don't know so much. I've been to the gym before. I do dance now. Dance, you may think it's la, 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 but if you're like spinning 6 times around like this, I'm in the middle of the spin and I go, I may be dizzy when I finish the spin. And then my dance teacher gives me one more and I go, well, just better go with the flow. And it all ends up work. And then all of a sudden at the end of the spin that I have to keep my balance and everything else like that. That's a positive stress. That's a hoot to be able to do things like that, or accomplishments that everybody cares about that they can do with their physical activity, about how long. Maybe Carl next month he'll talk about how many minutes he can immerse in ice bath or something like that. That was actually proposed as one of the examples of a physical stress. They also talked about heat and sauna and things like that. Good, put your body through that. That will be overall good for your health.
Yeah, there's actually, there's a researcher named, and I'm maybe mispronouncing his name, and maybe Ildi can help me out with this because he's Austrian-Hungarian. But, or he was, since that's two countries now, but Hans Selye, Selye, and he came up with the a concept called the general adaptation syndrome. And originally, he was a psychologist or working in the psychology area, but originally his research, the general adaptation syndrome, was used to explain how animals respond to stress. But you could use that the general adaptation syndrome to explain how humans respond to physical stress from exercise. And stress is an important part. This is where stress is positive. Stress, like you were saying, Arlene, is that a certain amount of stress is necessary in order to be placed on the human body in order for it to adapt and improve.
Yeah, and
But too much stress isn't good either. You could overstress or overtrain the body, and that's where you get negative effects, negative results.
It's so important to be able to connect with oneself, to know what's too much, what's not enough, and everything else like that, because as we've already mentioned here, it's so individual. Same species, everybody's the same species, but we have very different coping mechanisms for our stress, different things to adjust, different things that will be more engaging for us. Some things we'll be able to be consistent with that another person wouldn't be able to. So the self-exploration is a very big part of promoting mental and physical health.
I agree. And when it comes to self-exploration, once again, I think that's where mindfulness is so important, right? Because when you become mindful, then you start understanding you on a better or a different level than before. And then just exploring this, it just makes it like so much fun. So yeah, absolutely agree. And so when it comes to specific, let's start with physical activity. And doesn't matter, it's going to the gym, doing dancing, going for a walk or whatever it is. So when it comes to physical activity, and once again, if we wanted to connect it with people who are anxious, what specific physical activity would you prescribe for people with anxiety to help them to, feel better about themselves, to be more well and improve their well-being?
I think one of the key points there, Ildi, is to the biggest one, I think, is to have the individual do something that they enjoy. Like, for example, if someone came to me and they asked me what should they do to what type of exercise program or what physical activities should they explore or engage in, it may be very, very different from some of the things that I like to do. And what would happen there in that case, if I told them, well, this is what you should do without getting their feedback, well, what if they don't like to do it? Well, guess what? Pretty soon, if number one, they're not going to be really enthusiastic about it right off the bat, and they're probably not going to stick with the program. And that's what you want overall. Again, we're trying to modify behaviors. You want someone to engage in a program for long periods of time over the course of their lifetime, ideally. And if they don't like to do it, they're not enthusiastic about it in the beginning, you're going to lose them. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes, if not the biggest mistake that I made when I was a strength coach, when I wore that hat, is that what I used to do with athletes when they came into the weight room, I gave them a program. I didn't get any feedback from them at all. I told them, here's what we're doing today. And I gave them the whole workout. And in retrospect, I probably lost a lot of people, or a good number of people. My approach should have been, okay, here's what I'd like you to do today. Here's the different ways we can accomplish that. You pick what you want to do, those activities or those exercises. We're going to do them, though, how I want them to be done, but you get to pick the exercise of this. That makes them feel like they're part of the program. that they're part of the process, and they're gonna be much more engaged, they're gonna be much more like it over time. I think another thing to do that's important is especially if you're first learning us, to exercise with a friend or someone else. I think that helps for a number of reasons. And then the last point I'd like to make, and I'll turn it over to Arlene, is that I think there's a growing body of research showing that various types of physical activities can be used to improve various aspects of your physical and mental health, including such non-traditional, and I'll use the word non-traditional, it's probably not right, but I'll use it, and I'll let Arlene and Ildi correct me because they're the experts in the mindfulness area, but activities like yoga, meditation, tai chi, breathing, those are some types of activities that haven't been as popular if you go back years ago, but I think they're gaining some traction nowadays. And again, there's a growing body of evidence from research showing the positive effects, especially as it pertains to mental health, from those types of activities.
Yeah, as a coach, I do take on that position as an overall coach, that I work with the model of the mind of my coachee. And so I'm not a physical expert, so I don't have that expertise, so I don't point them in any direction. That's not up to me, but I'll ask them questions. So wherever my personal interest will go with a client is to listening about their objections. I think this is a really interesting area to work on. What are the objections that they have? Oh, I don't have enough time. Oh, I'm always taking a trip to hotels. And when you go to hotels, the gyms are stinky and unhygienic. It can be almost funny, the brilliance of the excuses that people make. So if you work with them on negotiating with their objections, when you get that negotiated, then you can work with the attitude, or the positive attitude, and what can that be connected to. So this is working as a coach, not as a physical fitness expert. If somebody doesn't have physical activity or physical health high up on their priorities, something else is there. So they might have very high on their priority something like spiritual life, or it might be family, or it might be finances or something like that. So then I would go through a mental exercise with them. How would exercise benefit your spiritual health? Give me a list of 20 ways in which physical health actually supports your spiritual life. Go, oh, well, that makes things different. Or family, give me 20 different reasons that you having physical health is good for family. And they actually get some pretty quickly, maybe 3 or 5 they can get quickly, then they get a little bit stumped. But if you go further on beyond the 3 to 5 obvious reasons why they make a connection, then they start getting to some more unconscious connections that they can make. And these are the ones that cause the big reframe shifts. And I've done it with myself and with clients, literally making a list of 200 reasons. That was my goal, make 200 reasons why this thing actually supports me and my highest priorities. That's how I'm going to be able to sell it to myself. If I don't want to change my values priority, what's most important, dear to me in life, one organization would to be exclude things that just don't seem to fit in, or another organization is to bring it in so that it actually supports the most important things, and it all works out in the end. That's a really good exercise for people to apply for themselves or to work with other people with.
Thank you. No, I really like what you said, because when it comes to for example, as you said, traveling, sometimes people say it's too many airports, too many places I go to. And I'm going through this, for the last about nearly year and a half. I actually, just traveling from place to place, and sometimes, 5 days in one place, sometimes it's 2 weeks. And it's very hard to keep a routine. And what I actually learned over this period, also when it comes to physical activity, is that as long as I make myself say okay, I'm committed to do for me, an hour and a half walk. I usually say 5 kilometers that I like to walk every morning, because there's not so much for my physical body, but a little bit for the physical body. It's more for my mental health that I need it, because as I'm moving my body, it's like a movement meditation class for me. And so as long as, and because obviously I'm traveling with my dog, he needs his walking. So that's very helpful for me to do that with him together. And the other thing is that I always just keep in mind, okay, 15 minutes. If I can exercise top on the an hour and a half for 15 minutes, every day, or like say 5 days a week, that's already for me is like very, very helpful. So it's once again, it's like coming over our like ideas that I need to exercise for an hour. Yes, I would like to exercise for an hour, but I'm not always in the mindset, especially when I'm traveling. And once again, it's breaking it down, something that negotiating with our staff, like what is that I'm seeing acceptable during these times.
And I think
And
that's one of
so-
the,
Sorry?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tilly, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go for it.
I was going to say that I think that's one of the myths that surround exercise, is that it has to be long. And that's in people's minds, that's a barrier, because they say, well, I don't have the time to invest. Well, you don't need to invest a lot of time in order to improve your health. You don't have to do these marathon sessions of 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week for, several hours a day. That's almost like basically a part-time job at that point. Well, workouts don't have to be that way to be productive. And I think people should look at it in terms of getting the most out of a workout in the least amount of time, not the most out of a workout in the most amount of time. Just try to maximize the time that you spend exercising.
Yeah,
good
I
phrase.
agree.
I learned years ago from a coach that had the wellness part in her coaching too. I learned about high intensity training workouts. I didn't know about that before my coach introduced them to me. And so everything that you do is body weight. Your body goes with you wherever you travel or anything else like that. And I think before I did some crazy things in my life, like taking weights with me on trips and trainings and things like that. I made it like logistically very, very difficult. So having known about that, learning about that and the science behind that, about how effective it is, some of the simple things like mountain climbers that have been subjected to scientific, rigorous experiments on how much that they work. This is important. And nowadays, I like the Tibetan longevity rites. I do a little warm up with yoga, then I do those 21 repetitions of 5. Dance is the exciting physical exercise for me. And the Tibetan rites are kind of like sameness and maybe even repetitive and not so, I don't know, not so wow. But it's like, just do it. Just do it. This is what I will do for myself. Have this one. Dance, I want to go. Then I have the Tibetan rites. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And I feel better when I do it. So this goes anywhere. And I mean, people who are physical wellness coaches, they have this incredible range and all these different movements that can be made. I mean, I don't dominate that, but I know my little HIIT routine. I have a HIIT routine that I can do literally anywhere, as long as I have music.
And the good news that you can download now music onto your phone, like, even if you don't have access to the internet, you still can download it and still do it, right?
Yes.
So now it's 1:50, and because we meant to finish up at 2, I would like to ask if anybody in the participants has any questions to Matt or Arlene. So just unmute yourself. If you're happy with that, if you're brave enough to.
Hi, I actually did have a question. I don't know if can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Everything okay? Hi, well, I'm Bella. It's nice to meet you guys. Thank you for sharing. I was writing down like a bunch of questions because what you guys were saying was really interesting. I was thinking about what you were saying with like how there's multiple benefits beyond the physical in terms of exercise, that like you said, there's the mental aspect, and then there's the physical use stress on the body. So when you're like interacting with clients and you're saying you're recommending like some sort of regimen, do you recommend that they allocate time to something that applies that eustress, so something that might increase your lung capacity or decrease your heart rate or blood pressure, something physical like that, and then also something that's very mind body focused, like meditation, yoga. Do you recommend both? Because if, say, I was doing mainly breath work, for example, that does apply some eustress in the body because I'm training my breath, and it also creates somatic bodily awareness, which would benefit my mental health. But also, then I might be neglecting, if I'm spending time on that, I might be neglecting like the more rigorous exercise. I was just curious. That was one of my questions.
Sure, I can cite John Kabat-Zinn, who wrote the series of wonderful books on mindfulness, and he does include yoga. And when he talks about the body work, he says there are 3 things that you want to get. Whatever you choose, make sure you're taking care of 3 things. Again, I'm not a physical wellness expert. I'm a user of this wonderful information. That it includes strength, balance, and flexibility. So if you get those 3, I think that might like autocorrect. I'm doing breathing exercises. Am I doing exercises for my physical strength and for my physical balance? That might automatically take you to check into something that's more movement oriented so that you can actually work on your balance or work on your strength. And then with clients, I didn't used to do this, but nowadays I only want to work with clients that do things to take care of themselves. Otherwise, they come to the sessions too stressed. They come crazy stressed to the sessions and go, wow. I work with people that commit to taking care of themselves with some kind of self-care routine. I didn't used to do that, but I think I got tired of people, coming to their sessions really in chaotic states.
Great. Yeah, I thank you. That's okay. Strength, balance, flexibility. I'm like writing everything down. And then and you guys kind of touched on this as well, but have you guys noticed that movement, you said that movement in the presence of others is, it can be more effective for reducing stress. Have you guys seen any research about like the setting that you're doing it in, like whether it's like natural lighting, nature, if that is going to be better in terms of reducing stress than like going to like a gym, for example?
I haven't seen any research on it. There may be some research out there. I haven't seen it, but I gotta believe if you think about it, that exercising the outdoors has to do a whole, it has to stimulate your mind a lot better than exercising within the confines of a gym or a closed space. Even like my sister loves to walk. She's a little bit younger than me, a little bit. But she mentioned to me, I saw her about a week ago, and she mentioned to me, she goes on walks with friends of hers, and she said she can't walk indoors on a treadmill. Even though it's the same activity, she can't do it indoors. So I think there's a lot to be said about working out outside, and getting the, just feeling nature, for example. You're muted, Bella.
Hi. Okay, sorry, I was having issues. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys answering my questions. Okay, I agree. I definitely think that for me, at least, like being outside in nature it's made me more motivated to work out and do exercise. So I was curious about that, but I see someone else has a question. So thank you so much again.
And I actually had to do that. And I would call myself a gym rat. That's what I grew up on. I go to gyms, right? And during COVID, I didn't have access to a gym. Even though I manage a gym, I didn't have access to it. So what I ended up doing was I worked out outside, as best as I could. And it was just a totally different experience. Especially when I worked out on campus outside near our running track, had some pull-up bars and some other things there, so that I incorporate into my workouts. But and I'm doing it in the dark, during the summer months or late spring throughout the summer. And literally there were deer near me. where I was exercising. You know, so it was a really different mindset. It's really different. And in some cases, much more enjoyable from a mental standpoint than being in a gym.
Well, there is Carl who also asked the question that we talked about mental and physical health, and how about spiritual dimensions? So who would like to add to this?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to either Arlene or Ildi on that. That's a little bit that's a lot out of my niche. And Ildi could verify that.
Oh, Carl, for the spiritual, I think about the mental and physical support is so important to have the spiritual experience, so that, you know, clears and it aligns. And when one is feeling healthy and they've got their mindfulness working, for me and my understanding or my experience is like the spiritual connections like almost automatic, because it's just it's about oneness, because we're talking about spiritual, not religious, not ritual, not rites, not dogma, anything else like that. But I think that these are both supports for that. And years ago, this was a yoga teacher that told me, well, the real hatha yoga, this physical positions are to get strength enough to be able to have the spiritual experiences, because our spiritual experience happens in our body and our mind. So this is like preparing the conditions to have those.
I so agree with you, Arlene, because I think that's one of the misconception about, for example, yoga, is that a lot of people do yoga for the physical aspects of it. But truly, yoga is actually meant to be our spiritual enlightenment. That's the highest purpose of it. The mental, in my opinion, would be second, and the body is only the third. So yeah, I very agree with you that when it comes to yoga, for example, it's all about spirituality. But we live in this unfortunate world where, yeah, people say like, oh, I'm doing yoga because it's so fashionable, but actually there is a much higher meaning to that than what we can do with on the physical level, just doing yoga. Is there anybody else who has questions, would like to ask anything else? I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
This is Sal. How are you? Great program, Ildi. I love the discussion. Matt, you're awesome. Thanks for serving. Arlene, I really appreciate you. You're great. My question is, I'm going to call it myself an active ager. Are the baby boomers active agers, are they reticent about going for help on mental wellness or anxiety? I was just curious from a generational standpoint. But what's your read on that, Arlene?
When I think about my parents' generation, I think the stigma was very strong. Very strong. It's like when I think about my parents, like from a raised in a Midwestern town, I think I would, we're going to go for therapy? No way. And then from the baby boomer perspective, I think that I have a bias because I've been so many years hanging out with people who are into the self-development area, that it's like, for the people that I hang out with, it's just like normal, it's expected. Many people that I know have been like, you know, through 3 different therapists and 3 different coaches and things like that. And it's like, it's part of it. Talking to people in general, I think there's for the baby boomers, I think they're already accepting that. They say, yeah, I go to therapy. I love my therapist. I love my analyst or whatever it is. I think already there's an acceptance for that. Maybe not in corporate world. There's one of the places that I work with, and then there's some resistance. But I think it's more because of the corporate context than the generational context.
Yeah. Hey, Sal, how are you? Yeah, for those of you, I've known Sal for like 40 years. And just if you kind of figure out, if you're thinking, how old is this guy? He's known someone for 40 years. Well, I met him when I was 6. So but Sal, to your question, is that I think a lot of things have changed. Oh, the world is a lot different place now than it was when we were, actually Sal and I were roughly the same age. The world is a lot different place now than when we were growing up. When we were growing up, Even if you knew you had a mental illness, which, yeah, all full disclosure here, I've battled mental illness for like my entire life, pretty much since I was a young boy. I didn't know I had it when I was a young boy. In retrospect, I had some stuff going on, but back when I was growing up, you just didn't, even if you did and you knew it, you didn't say it, because you were typecast. Yeah, you were viewed as an oddball, a weirdo, a misfit, a nut job, an outcast, or worse, right? And times have really changed. And by the way, if you had money and you had mental illness, you were eccentric. But if you didn't have money, you were an oddball. You're just as a quick side note. But I think times have changed, and I think what's helping times change is that many prominent individuals are coming forward and acknowledging that they've had a mental illness. If you look at the athletic world, most notable perhaps Michael Phelps, U.S. swimmer, who's which is interesting too, because he's literally won more Olympic medals than many countries, by himself. And yet he's come out over the years and mentioned about having a mental illness such that he considered suicide. And then you get like Naomi Osaka, tennis player, or you get a Simone Biles, a gymnast, when they're coming out and publicly acknowledging that they have mental health issues. And again, their visions, you think of these athletes, their visions of perfection. Think about it, right? But not really. I mean, everybody's got, in my opinion, everybody's got some type of mental illness. It's how you manage it or you contain it. But I think as people become more open about it and they seek help. And again, let's face it too, as guys, we couldn't admit that we had mental health because we're supposed to be the strong ones. That's a sign of weakness if you do that. I'm prior military. I'm not supposed to admit that I had mental illness. Because that's a sign of weakness. Okay, but again, as more and more people come out and acknowledge the fact that they've had mental illness, I think it becomes it's a lot different time now where people are starting to pursue help, in various forms.
Thank you. Well, Sal, thank you so much for such an amazing question, and thank you for being here with us. Sal is actually one of my close friends also who introduced me to Matt originally. So, and I just actually wanted to say that it's a very interesting question and very interesting topic, right? Because once again, it's not only like a generational thing. It is definitely like when we look at the statistics, we can see that baby boomers are not as much focused on the mental health as, for example, the Gen Zs now, the younger generations. But it's slowly changing. And once again, like as Matt pointed out, that when it comes to men, also, men is like should be the stronger one. They shouldn't be asking for help. That was the old belief. And it's really stayed, not only with generations, but it's a worldwide issue. It's not just like country specific, but it's happening all around the world in every country. And that's why I love our discussion today, because it really helped us to bring once again together mental health and physical health. And once again, like one of the things that I recently discovered once I started looking at the two areas and comparing them, it's that, as we said before, is the stigma around them, because there's no stigma when it comes to mental health. And people quite often even use their physical health issue as something like, look at that, it's a shiny armor, I broke my leg, like, feel sorry for me. But even if they don't use it that way, it's still like a lot of people like talking about what's going on with them physically. And they're happy to admit that they're seeing a physiotherapist, they are, had the surgery, and they are, doing something on a physical level. But when it comes to the mental breakage, when we are feeling anxious, when we are feeling stressed, we don't go out and say to people like, I'm not feeling good. Like, we are actually hiding it. And so what is the difference between seeing a physiotherapist versus seeing a therapist and asking for mental health? Nothing. And it should be no stigma around either options, because there is no difference between brain health or mental health versus the physical health. They both have to be healthy so we can actually be well. So yeah, thank you so much again for this discussion. And if anybody else would like to add anything, please do that now? No more questions, nothing, nobody wants to add anything? Awesome. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for Arlene and Matt to be here with us and share their knowledge. And this masterclass will be something that I would like to organize on the monthly basis and invite always people from the mental and always people from the physical health. So, you know, we can actually combine these two separated worlds into one and create true well-being. And one of my initiative that some of you knows about is what I call the mindfulness mental vitality gym, which is something that we can once again create a healthier mindset in an online format. So if anybody would like to have a free trial for a week or two, please send me a direct message. I'm going to put it in the chat how you can reach me. And yeah, it's once again, just come along and try it out. It's really about having fun with each other, being mindful about what's going on with our well-being, mental on the mental and physical level as well. So my email address, if you would like to try it out, is I didn't spell it correctly. So yeah, and I would like to ask Matt and Arlene to, if you have your favorite quote and or any personal message to people who are struggling with anxiety, what's your personal message would be for them? And please share, if you would like, to people to able to reach you, what would be the way for them, you know, if they want to work with you, what would be the way for them to work with you, how they can reach you?
I guess I could go first. And I'll answer the second part of your question first. It'll be, if you need to get a hold of me, my email is my last name, as you see on the screen, brzycki@princeton.edu. And I guess, you know, I'll go back and reiterate a point that I had made in response to Sal's question about, I think that everybody has some form of mental illness to different degrees, different types. And I think it's how you manage or contain it. And if whatever you have reaches a point, the so-called boiling point, where it's affecting your daily life or the lives of others, then I think that's at that point, you should seek help, professional help. And I don't mean that sarcastically. You should seek professional help because it's only going to get worse.
Thank you.
That's my email that I just sent. I think I would. There's lots of quotes. I don't have a favorite quote. I have favorite quotes that come up at different points at different times because they support me in ways to think and feel. I think it has to do with a tip that I said that maybe in our times, because of the pandemic, it was more acute, that people are often dealing with like uncertainty and insecurity and unsafeness, but always in the present moment, in some aspect, in some kind of way, we always have some safety somewhere. Same thing, certainty. If you don't know what's going to happen, there's always some things you can be certain about, like your principles or something like that. And so if you learn how to focus, you can always find what apparently is missing, and it makes just a giant difference on well-being to be able to do that exercise. That's my invitation.
Thank you. Well, to finish off, let's take 3 conscious breaths, because after all, we also hear about practice a little bit of mindfulness. So I would like to ask you, if you're comfortable with closing your eyes, close your eyes, please. If not, just look at the tip of your nose And just really observe how you are inhaling in your body right now. And without judgment, just notice the speed of your breath. Notice if it's through your nose or through the mouth. And just really be aware how you are breathing at this present moment. And once you've done your third breath, welcome to open your eyes. And I would like to invite you to put a smile on your face, because this is honestly one of the easiest things we can do for our mental and physical health. It's just that, it's not that technical. You literally just need to lift these two corners towards to the your eyes, like this, right? It's not that hard. And by doing that, we can actually help ourselves instantly feeling better. So thank you again so much for everybody joining in today. I really do appreciate for all of you to tuning up and listening to us and helping us. And thank you again so much for Arlene and Matt. Their email addresses in the chat. And if you would like to, if you didn't manage to capture that, message me. I will be happy to put you in touch with them. And have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. And we'll see you next month.
Great job. See ya.
See
See
you
you,
guys.
Sal.
Bye.
Take care, Matt.
Thank you. No, but Bella,
My pleasure.